Shane and I have been talking about this ACA. It feels like we've been doing the radio show. The Supreme Court just ruled on the Affordable Care Act. And Shano, you want to explain what happened? You're the law school graduate here and a certified Supreme Court reporter, actually, with credentials and everything.
Yeah. Well, it was a big win, of course. I mean, everyone's probably heard this right now. So what the Supreme Court did was say, we're going to look at the entire text of the ACA. You know, what happened in this case, of course, is everyone already knows, but we'll recap real quickly, is opponents of the ACA went in and said, hang on, my levels are a little low here, sorry, went in and said, this one specific phrase of the Affordable Care Act says that subsidies to buy health insurance may only go through exchanges established by the state. Mm-hmm. And there's one little section of IRS Code 36B. The Supreme Court said, we're not going to just look at this one sentence. They said, we're going to look at the entire ACA, the entire Affordable Care Act, and we're going to interpret that sentence in light of the other sections of the ACA. And they determined that regardless of whether that said exchanges established by the state, we're just going to apply this to state and federal exchanges because it doesn't make any sense otherwise.
Right.
Things that they did is they went and extrapolated out. If you were to only allow these subsidies through the state exchanges, how it would affect other parts of the ACA, how it would essentially fall apart on itself, and how it would affect states that didn't, that allowed the federal government to set up these exchanges, how there would be a death spiral in terms of all people would not go get insurance because there were three parts to the Affordable Care Act. Everyone gets insurance, no pre-existing conditions, and we're going to make it affordable by doing these subsidies. If you get rid of any one of those three, through history, as states have tried it that way,
it blows up.
It blows up. You have a death spiral. So, and they said Congress could not have possibly meant to enact a law that's going to create a death spiral in terms of health coverage. So therefore, you know, and there was another section of it where they also said the states shall establish an exchange. That was part one. Part two, if they don't, the Secretary of Health shall establish, and it said such exchange. And this was really key to them because the use of the phrase, I should say, such exchange in their minds, and the justices that voted for this, the six, such exchange meant that the two exchanges were the equivalents.
Right.
They operated the same way. They had the same parameters. They had the same requirements, the same ways to get into it. They were going to operate similarly from state to state, so they were the same thing.
Right. Now, my take on it, you know, I originally had, in fact, last night on television, I predicted that I thought that it was going to come down pretty much exactly like it did. I didn't know where Kennedy was going to go, but I knew that Roberts was going to be in favor of maintaining it. Mm-hmm. Why? Because Roberts always votes for the big corporations.
Right.
Always, always, always. And what happened as soon as this decision came down? The stock value of all of the insurance companies just jumped up.
Did it really?
Oh, absolutely. and the same thing with the big hospital chains. Both of them, they just went up. And you know, it's for predictable reasons. I mean, this is 8 million more customers. It's the ACA is a boon to big corporations as well as to the American people. And we could get the same thing for half the price if we did Bernie Sanders Medicaid for all, or Medicare for all rather. Mm-hmm. But if we're going to do it this way, it's it seems to be the American way. Make sure that somebody gets rich and things get done.
Interestingly, the dissent was written by Justice Scalia.
Right, and what's interesting is, but in both the decision and the dissent, they cited
Marbury versus Madison,
saying we have the power to decide this, and then. Right. And then
Scalia said, "You have the power to tell you what the law is, but we don't have the power to rewrite the law."
Right.
But he has some great quotes because his decision, dissent, was pretty sarcastic, as he is often want to do. Some of the lines, we should start calling this law SCOTUS care. Look for the right to start bringing that up. Right. Another quote: "Words no longer have meaning. Today's interpretation is not merely unnatural; it's unheard of." And the cases will publish forever that the discouraging truth that the Supreme Court of the United States favors some laws over others and is prepared to do whatever it takes to uphold and assist its favorites. So he thinks that the majority in this case simply was going to do whatever it could to uphold the ACA.
Right. And essentially that's what I'm saying. that Roberts was going to do what he was going to figure out a way to keep this thing going because corporate America wants it. The Chamber of Commerce wants it. They may fund anti-Obamacare talk because they don't like Obama and they don't like Democrats. And but the fact of the matter is that everybody's making money on this.
And Scalia even went on to also go back and complain about the prior ACA ruling too, saying, "Well, we wrote the law, we rewrote it last time when it said it was a penalty, and we called it a tax. So we're just doing the same thing again." So he took another smack at Roberts there.
Right. Which, in other words, Roberts didn't go far enough when he said states could opt out of the Medicaid.
Right.
So very, 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 very interesting stuff.